fellow cinematic architects, and welcome to Remake This Movie Right. My name is Aaron Peterson. I will be your host, and this is an introduction to our show to kind of hopefully explain what we're trying to do, explain what we're trying to capture, and what the whole purpose of this podcast is. I mean, everybody's got a million variations of podcasts to choose from. We definitely don't want you to listen to this and not really understand what we're trying to do. This is Remake This Movie Right is part of the Hollywood Outsider Network. And the Hollywood Outsider is a podcast that I created and have been one of the hosts of for 4 or 5 years. So we've been working on that show for quite a while. And throughout that show, we have reviewed, I can't even tell you how many movies. We have covered, I don't know how many topics, had great interviews. We've had a lot of fun and success with that show. And the one thing that I learned from doing that show was nobody was talking about all the remakes. I mean, we all bitch and complain about them, but nobody's really talking about, well, how do we do them different? You know, we all think, if you go on the internet, you talk to your friends, if you're talking to someone, everybody has an idea how they think these remakes should be done. Nobody's really talking about them in podcast form, except for kind of mocking the movie and that sort of thing. We don't want to do that. We kind of want to take beloved movies and find out what works about them, find out what doesn't work, put it all in a blender, and then determine exactly what the movie should be. Or before we make it probably a little too insane, because we do want a humorous take on this. But I definitely wanted this introduction to kind of give you a feel for how the show is going to work, okay? Because our show is broken into 3 distinct parts. The first part is the original. We're going to discuss whatever the movie's impact is, the original movie, some quick trivia bits about the original movie, what worked best from that film, and therefore what has to remain in our upcoming remake, as well as what didn't work and what needs to be changed for today's audiences. That's the first part. Then we go into the second part, which is the remake. We put together our movie, the movie that we think Hollywood execs should stop doing whatever they're doing and make our movie because we know what we're talking about, because we're movie buffs. And all of us movie buffs, all of you guys listening, we all know the best way to do everything, right? We all think we do. When we try to determine that, we're looking at what story do we want to tell, how close to the original will it be, who's going to star in it, and ultimately who's going to direct our eventual cinematic masterpiece. It's an Oscar winner in the waiting, is what we're hoping for. Our hosts are then going to work together to put together one cohesive movie, not 2 or 3. We have up to 3 hosts. They're not going to be 3 separate movies. This is one movie we're making. There's one caveat, and it will happen every episode. Each host, or how many hosts there are, well, they're up to 3 usually, has a cut. And what I mean by cut is, you know, anybody that's familiar with films knows that if a director's making a movie, he yells cut, everything stops. That's what this is. So if we're describing something, like, as I say in one episode, if there's a theme song and everybody loves that theme song, but one guy or gal doesn't like it, they can yell cut. And then from that point forward, we have to drop that theme song and we have to use whatever they decide. So if they say, you know what, I want to use I Will Always Love You from Whitney Houston as your theme song, that's what we have to go with. See? It's kind of a little wrench that you can throw into the program, and it can make things a little crazy, as you'll see as you listen to the first episode. Or, you know, it can make a really sensible conclusion, as you'll see in the episode after that, which I'm not going to talk about because I don't want to hint about it just yet. We do all that to basically come to a conclusion on what the movie's going to be, and that leads us to our final pitch. Now, the final pitch is where we summarize our remake by utilizing the voice talents of voiceover artist Wayne Henderson. I want to thank you, Wayne, for agreeing to help us with this. And he's basically going to present our finished remake to you in movie trailer form. It's a great idea. I wish I could take credit for it. My Blacklist Expose cohort that I do that TV show podcast with, it was actually his idea, Troy Heinrichs. Nice shout out to you, sir. And so that's going to be how we end the show. And then once you listen to it, if you disagree with our picks or you're listening, you're like, you idiots are not taking this seriously enough because you need to take this seriously. It's very, very important. Then you can email us your pitch and then in between our episodes, because our podcast is going to be every other week. You're going to get an episode of like, this is Weird Science. Then 2 weeks after that, you will get a new episode. In between is basically the buffer episode, as I like to call it, the teaser. That's where we're going to read any listener feedback, any pitches that you guys have. How would you remake that movie? We want to know. You email us, remakethismovie.right@gmail.com. That's remakethismovie.right@gmail.com. And on those in-between episodes, those buffer episodes, we will read that feedback. What we'll also do is we will tease the very next episode. We won't tell you what the title is, but I think we'll give you just enough that you'll be able to figure it out. You guys are all movie buffs, right? You are. You know you are. And then that's that. That's what's going to happen. That's the show. Remake This Movie Right. Very important you subscribe. Review us on iTunes, Stitcher. Throw us in your podcast feed, however you listen to podcasts. Go to the website. Go to thehollywoodoutsider.com or remakethismovieright.com will lead you directly to the website, whichever way you need to do it. I really hope you guys enjoy this show. We are starting from scratch. Give us a little bit to find our feet. I think if you guys have any great ideas, we would love to hear them. I welcome feedback. I mean, it's very important to shaping a fun show. Each episode should be about an hour and 10 minutes tops. I hope that's enough for you guys. I hope you enjoy it. Now, remember, you can email us at remakethismovieright@gmail.com. Pitches, feedback, thoughts on this entire podcast, because I've looked and looked, and you never like to say we're the only ones doing this, because there's somebody somewhere, probably in somebody's basement, doing a great job with this concept, and I just have never heard it. But I don't see anybody doing it, so I think it's pretty original. I think it's unique. I'm really hoping you guys like it. Be sure to tell us if you think there's something different we could do, or there's something you don't like or didn't make sense, so we can clarify it in the next episode, or at least 2 episodes from now. We'll definitely want to get to that point. And that's going to do it. I mean, let's get into the show. Go ahead, and that's the introduction. You've heard it. You know what you're going to expect. Go to the next episode, the Weird Science episode, which is the first one you're going to hear. Definitely hop over there. If you don't know what Weird Science is, it's the 1985 John Hughes classic. It revolved around Wyatt and Gary, played by Ian Mitchell-Smith and Anthony Michael Hall. And they were 2 high school nerds who kind of become so fed up with their lot in life. They decided to create the perfect woman in Lisa, who was played by Kelly LeBrock, who married Steven Seagal, but we won't hold that against her. As they find out, Lisa's a little bit more than they bargained for, and things go crazy. That's the movie we remake on the pilot episode. Hope you guys like it. It goes into a couple of racy spots, but it's still a clean podcast. We're trying to keep it clean for you guys, or at least network TV / maybe basic cable. But there will be no F-bombs in our show. There will be none of that. So it should be, for the most part, pretty safe for your kids, if you want to listen. Maybe not Weird Science, because if you've ever seen the movie, there's some sexy time talk. So, all right, I think that's going to do it for my introduction. I have definitely talked long enough. There's probably some of you that have already decided you no longer want to listen to the podcast. So remember, review us on iTunes, thumbs up on Stitcher, get our RSS feed in your podcast catcher. Wayne Henderson, thanks again, buddy. Go to mediavoiceovers.com. He's our voiceover artist, does a great job. And everybody else you'll hear as the episodes go on. We do have a Facebook group as well. If you go look for Remake This Movie Right, this group is only going to be about remakes. And not to mention that, we do have a Hollywood Outsider group, which is a main group. That's just for movies, TV fans, people that just like entertainment, want to talk about what's going on in the world there. If you look for our Facebook page, we set up a blank one just to help direct people in case they're looking for it and they get lost. But really, the Hollywood Outsider is our main page. So go to that page. That's facebook.com/The Hollywood Outsider. Just join the group. That's where the community is going to be. That's where I hope we have a lot of good conversations. And that's Remake This Movie Right on Facebook. We're also on Twitter at Remake Right. These are all new, so there might only be a couple people in there as of right now, but it'll grow. I promise. It'll grow. A lot of topics, a lot of people, a lot of fun times. I think that's going to do it for this episode of Remake This Movie Right, the introduction. Remember, we will have a new episode every other week. It will be on Mondays, so keep an eye on that. And we'll have the in-between episodes where we hear listener feedback and go through any emails and thoughts you guys have, as well as tease the next episode in between. Okay, and as I close her out, just remember, guys, that every movie you see, eventually there will be a remake. And only you can make it better.